like to tell people I was actually made in Mexico, but born in Texas. So my parents honeymooned in Mexico.
What branch of the service?
Air Force. So I was born in Lackland Air Force Base. And that's not the reason I wear boots, but I do wear boots all the time. So military brat, and grew up in Sacramento. So Sacramento's home. It was the longest place I ever lived. So spent some time in Japan, Colorado. Came back to Sacramento twice, and so Sacramento's my hometown.
So this is always an interesting question. What was your first job?
Well, I mean, probably like a lot of young people, you know, I mowed lawns and had a paper route. So mowed lawns, in fact, that's the funny thing about mowing lawns is the last time I owned a lawnmower is when I lived at home with my parents. I've known a lawnmower since. But I always had a vision that if I only had a riding mower, I would have been a success. And I told my staff that, gosh, you know, I've always dreamed of having a riding mower, and then I know I would have made it. They said, well, you have two. So anyway, we had the company, and I guess we did our own landscaping, so I had two.
So yeah, the other part of the paper route, I don't even think people know what that is anymore.
No, unfortunately.
Okay, so your big claim to fame was...
And it was also the Sacramento Union. People don't know what that is.
Yeah, you have to adapt. So your first thing was your first start PackageOne your first company or?
No, actually I went from high tech to no tech. I was a microelectronics guy for 20 some odd years. And in fact, in those days, if you're in an early company, you were a founder. So it wasn't like a startup and you weren't like an entrepreneur, you just were a founder. And often a number of us would join companies and you got founder stock, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was recruited to a young company. I won't give you the gory details from United Technologies into a company called Trickle in Oregon. We did analytical instrumentation. But my first foray into the semiconductor space was with a company called ASM Lithography. And it's a NASDAQ 100 company, and I was employee number 6 in 1984 in the US. And so that was a startup, but it was funded by Philips Electronics.
So, how did you go from that to PackageOne? What inspired you in PackageOne?
So there are certain things in your life that have some significant changes. One was going from aerospace to microelectronics. Another one was going from back into ASML, running Asia Pacific. And the dynamics were my family. So I was around the world every 3 weeks, different country every day. My family was going without me. And those who are familiar with the semiconductor space and the job that I had was probably one of the top jobs in the microelectronics industry. And we ran pattern generators for device technology. And they were $15 or $18 million a piece in those days. And so only the presidents of companies kind of made those final decisions. And so I got a chance to interface with President Samsung, President NEC, some very high, President TSMC. So a lot of influential folks. But I set up operations in Hong Kong, and those who know Asia, it's not a little place. It's still a few hours into Taipei and 8 or 9 hours into Tokyo. So I was gone all the time, working for a Dutch company, being a US expat, living in Asia. And so I just didn't lose my family. So I had made a decision at about 41. Now, these guys were paying me 7 figures as a young guy, managing Asia in the late 1990s, and paid all my living expenses. So it was really kind of a tough decision, but I chose to do that and have moved me back home. I retired the first time, December 31st, 1990.
Also, at this point, you just retired.
Well, no, on December 31st, 1999 at midnight, I could have retired. And I asked my wife where she wanted to set up shop. And she basically said, well, what do you want to do? You're kind of too young to do nothing. And my buddy was a packaging sales guy. And so we met in line for freshman football physicals. We dreamed of opening a company. And we finally decided to open a company. And there's a famous line in the business journal when we opened a company. He came out and interviewed us. And he said, well, why'd you open a packaging company? And tell us your story. And he says, well, I felt like I could teach Tom something about boxes before he could teach me electrons.
So, did you know anything about the packaging or your boxes?
I still don't. That's what made me successful. It's not making difficult mistakes. and not having the recipe book and daring to be bold and daring to be different.
So with that, what is PackageOne?
So PackageOne, it was one of those things in the old days. Remember, it was like supply one. So that was kind of the coin catchphrase of companies back in the end of the 1990s. And so PackageOne, to me, it actually conjured up an idea of really what we did. And so what we wanted to do was really be the ultimate supply chain in the packaging space. And so our vision was enabling commerce and saving the planet one box at a time. So we made business happen. How do you get your products to market? So we were the ultimate connection in the entire supply chain. So we started PackageOne, greenfield, in my last several months at ASML. I toured trade shows and whatnot, kind of educated myself. And then we started PackageOne as a distributor, buying and selling stuff, for a gross trading margin. That eventually got into the manufacturing piece.
Okay, so I would assume it was like packaged like boxes. Is that what it was?
Well, we ended up with mostly boxes, but we started out with things that are 4 places to the right of the decimal place, like tape and stress film.
Oh.
And so we were a distributor, and it turns out that 48.6% of our business was corrugated. And along the way, again, it was one of those things where I wanted to create a business, but not a lifestyle business. And that was kind of the message with my partner. I said, look, we'll do this, but we're going to be $100 million. I mean, we're not going to be pop and pop. And so what we decided to do was buy the pop and pops. So we started this distribution business, and originally we said, hey, we'll put the weight room over there and the basketball court, and before you know it, full of stuff. And we couldn't lose. We started out like gangbusters, and $4.5 million the first 9 months, and then in the first 3 years, 17, 18 million, and bought a packaging company, a box manufacturing company. So I did a reverse acquisition on them. They're about 22 million. So in the first 5 years, we were about 45 million.
So did you really expect this kind of success?
Yes, we did. But what I didn't expect was the failure. I almost lost everything in 2007.
All right, so
went from from growing like crazy, thinking this is easy. Boy, I didn't do this before. And then 2007 hit the shan, and
so this
I was scared to death.
So this is your near-death experience?
Yeah, it was tough. I will tell you, it was tough.
So was this just the economy, or was there something else?
No. We were kind of stupid, and unfortunately, I made the same mistake twice. But when we bought this company, there were at least 4 operating systems. So by then, we acquired Salt Lake City and did a greenfield in Fresno. We had about 7 locations, and the manufacturing company had 3 specific operating systems. So I had budgeted to put another $1 million in new operating systems, but what I didn't forecast correctly was the economic downturn in 2007, 8, and 9, but also the culture of a distribution team, particularly in the commercial side, the sales guys on a manufacturing team versus a distribution team. So we have hired killers on the distribution side where they got paid on the spread between cost and sale. Manufacturing guys were, consultative selling, and you made stuff really efficiently, you made money. When you made it inefficiently, you lost money. And they kind of managed the ebbs and flows. So it culturally was a bit of a strain. But let me answer one more question on that. 7 is in 2007, because of we didn't have a good operating system. We had those cultural issues. We got hurt fast. So when the economy took a dump, we got hit first. So the good news is it was still good for somebody, and we got a chance to get better. And I sold off the distribution company we started, so I could save the rest of the company. So we went from distribution manufacturing, kept the manufacturing piece, sold off the Sparks plant, sold off distribution, so we could live and fight another day.
So as you grow, what was, how did you grow? What was your sales process or marketing process of growing?
Well, we were direct sales. So we have a direct sales model, and we also grew through acquisition. So probably half of our growth was through acquisition, and half was through direct sales. And we had a pretty aggressive plan. And so our vision was to make a good salesman a great salesman a legend. And I used the technology to cut my transaction costs and to model how people should behave. So we took people that were core for that business. But again, I was a tech guy. And my income statement was 4 places to the right of the decimal. People thought I was nuts. And so I was looking at micro trends in our business, and we managed the sales guys, and we taught them how they can make extra calls or sell certain things to make a lot of money.
So you're able to take processes that in the semiconductor businesses. Then it sounds like it's more of a sales process rather than over the packaging industry.
Yeah, so I think that the commercial side, my partner, I had a partner at the time, so he had a partner. I bought him out in April 2005 and acquired Red River in May of 2005. He knew that was going down, but I think it was that's probably for another story for another day. But I did believe that sales is a skill and an art, but also I think there are tools that you can use that will make you better. And so what I set out to do was to basically develop these tools so that my people could be effective and efficient and be better than anybody else.
So in fact, when I talk to startups, that's usually where they fail, is sales. In fact, usually successful startups, have someone that. In fact, I've seen the last two people or the last couple people I interviewed, one of the early jobs was like door-to-door sales. Actually, John Costa's first job was it. And so in some ways, I almost think that was that strive to the no fear in selling of what made successful. So tell me, like, how, are you teaching the sales process, or are you teaching a tool, or are you providing tools for the sales?
So I would say, in part, I believe I think sales are the economic engine that drive business, and I think sales can hide a lot of sense. But what I think drives business and business growth are processes. I mean, it's the last thing people want to talk about. It's the last thing that I wanted to talk about. I didn't believe any of that stuff, but I couldn't scale unless I had good processes in place.
So are you liking everything processized, or are you liking sales?
No, I think you have to basically be able to eat what you can chew. So I think you have processes along the way. It doesn't mean that they're robust and you kill a lot of brain cells trying to figure it all out. But I think you have to have some discipline, some rigor in your process. And I think it's really hard for young companies to do that. Sales is the lifeblood. I mean, so let's not mistake that. So if you have a good idea and you can generate some revenue, I think what will happen is you'll wind up saving your equity if you can start generating some sales. But I think what will ultimately destroy you is if you don't have processes. So imagine you're Mario Andretti, and they say, hey, you can't grow too fast. But if you know how to drive 150 miles an hour, that's not too fast, right? So if you have the skills, you have the process, you have the discipline, you got the vehicle, you can do it. Right? But if you don't, then you better not break the law.
Oh, you also get kids your next fix the car. So when you were talking about your near-death experience in 2007, looking back, what were was there any lessons from that you saw, or things that you could have avoided, other than predicting the future?
Well, it couldn't stop Katrina, right? So that really set our industry on its ear. And I think I said I'd make the same mistake twice. I mean, I really think integrating these two different cultures and these businesses was still the right thing to do. And I think what I did not, and I think it's kind of the perfect storm concept. I didn't have the opportunity. I knew that I had to integrate operating systems. And I knew I had to fix the culture. It wasn't afforded enough time to do it. So I'd make the same mistake twice. I just would hope that I would have time to do it.
Okay. So you got what you acquired 2 years ago, PackageOne?
Yeah, so PackageOne was acquired. So we went from going great to not going great. So we're growing about 44% compound annual growth year over year for the first 6 or 7 years. Then basically took a dump and almost lost everything.
Literally. So the second time?
No, just one really big time. And so I sold off the distribution. So that, I can't say how much I made. I took home zero. I made a lot of money. Took home zero. Paid off a lot of debt. And I still had another $4 million. It took me another 3 years to pay off. But then we went down to about 14 million. Then we grew 22% year over year for the next decade, and allowed me to also acquire some corrugators. And so I was a partner in 3 corrugators. And by the time we actually exited, the corrugators were doing over $100 million a piece, and the PackageOne itself was about 60 million.
So, what was the acquisition trial? Were you looking to leave, or did someone approach you?
No, I think when we started the company, we were looking to exit, and then when things got ugly, then we thought, oh God, it's going to save the company. And then you get a little bit better and say, well, maybe I'll just build a cash flow company. So there's a lot of diversity in terms of the deals that we look at. So I would say that we like regional deals. We like companies who have some revenue, so sales are important. There's occasionally some seed money, some startups that we get involved with, but it's not, the preference is to have, revenue and to be able to get some level of return on the assets. But also I think that we have a desire to work with people we like, and we like to work with companies that we think we can make a difference.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to open up with the audience, questions to the audience. So, do I have questions? John, can you first? No, go ahead. I just need.
I can ask one. So, Tom, I've known you for probably 10 years, and I know that you've been very involved in entrepreneurs organization. Are you still involved in that?
I am.
Can you tell people a little bit about it? And I also want to say, I talked to people at at the Startup Grind conference last week, and some of the chapters have now like these little startup accelerator programs. So anyway, I just thought you could tell people about EO.
So EO, I've been involved in a lot of professional organizations, and I'll date myself by saying like American Management Association and things like that. But EO is probably been the finance organization I've been a part of. So I've been a member for about 16 years. So I'm one of the longest standing members here in Sacramento. It's a very competitive, but it's a peer-to-peer learning group. So the nice thing about EO is that you're really getting practical experience from your peers, right? So you're really looking at being in a chapter forum with myself and people who have been running businesses. A minimum business $1 million, which is not very big, but the average business size, I think, our chapter might be 12 or 15, but globally it's maybe over 20. And here in Sacramento, in the last 5 years, we've had over $2 billion in exits. So nobody knows that, right? Who knows that? Not many. But we started adding up the exits, and we had over $1.5 billion in my forum alone. And so it's 12 guys. So if you think about it, there's a lot of money in the region, and there's a lot of success, and you can learn from those folks. Bringing the taxing authorities in to educate us about what that's, and feel good about it. I guess it's recorded, but even when I call the FTV, I use my real name, because we feel good about the relationships that we built with all the authorities. And so there is an accelerator group within EO. I think Sacramento is now trying to develop the accelerator group, and that's typically $250,000 revenue or raise capital of some other number, $500,000 or something. I don't really know what the numbers are, but we're looking for young companies that we can take under our wing and get to $1 million or more. But most of the companies that are part of the chapter are over $1 million. So I highly recommend it when you get to that point is to contact somebody in EO and get that exposure.
Greg Connolly, the founder of
Trifecta.
Trifecta, was speaking very highly of the EO group. We had him as a speaker at an event recently, and so he's going to get out.
Yes, Greg is, I'm actually on the board of Trifecta, and I work with Greg in an advisory capacity. I'm an investor, and he's killing it. He's doing a great job.
Yeah, Kurt Hoffman. Hey Tom, so you talk about 07 and that time frame and how you really got to a critical point of possibly even losing the business, and you talked about selling off some assets to create some liquidity and perhaps downsizing. Can you talk about did you have like a fireside chat with your employees? How did you keep morale up? And then how do you take those lessons and convey them to the entrepreneurs that you invest in so that when they have those moments, which seem very likely at some point in the lifetime of the business, what do you tell them to get through those tough times and to have that inspiration, that motivation, and perhaps maybe also the aspect of tweaking processes so that you can come out the other side and thrive?
So when I stopped throwing myself a pity party, literally tears involved, I realized that I can't fire me and I can't quit. So you set out to surround yourself with good people that can help arm you with options. You may not like the options, but they're options, right? So those who know me, scaling back, cutting back is like chewing off my arm. I mean, there was only one way to go, that's up. So, but we made tough decisions. We sold off the least performing assets, and we sold off some of the best performing assets to raise enough capital. Even sold off my real estate. And so I did go to some of the employees, not all. I said, here, I've got choices. I said, my family will have more money now if I put a chain on the front door. So I can sell this building, I can sell the other buildings, and I can raise some capital, pull another $3 million into the business and save the business. Are you with me? And they said, I'm with you. And I put it all in. And I didn't lose my best people, because in a town economy, your best people can always do the job.
Questions? John?
How long did it take you to sell the assets to recoup and push it back in?
Well, like I mentioned earlier that we were lucky because we were stupid faster than anybody. And so because of that, my assets still had value.
Okay.
And so there was a gentleman that really coveted my distribution business. And he happened to live in Los Angeles and had family in LA went down for the holidays. And between Christmas and New Year's, I sold the business.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Go ahead.
Hey, Tom, what in the market you're in, I assume is pretty competitive. Just curious how you worked with your team to position your company, with the sales team to position your company against competition. How did you achieve sales when you're dealing with, people having alternatives?
Yeah. Well, it's hard selling an empty box.
I bet.
So you should try that. But I think that it really comes down to processes, right? So I think if you have the right culture, and I learned a lot about culture, I learned a lot about building the right team and building the right process. Because if you're in a competitive market, you have to find ways to create value. And we found those ways through processes and discipline and our sourcing and merchandising, our design and development, and picking and choosing the right equipment that made us that more efficient. And so I was lucky enough, because every 3 to 5 years, most entrepreneurs go and save their company. People leave, people get upset, markets change, and I finally found a team that I didn't have to go in periodically and make them well. And I surrounded myself with a really good team, and culture became everything. I mean, they had skills, but there was an opportunity to bring in people, and it just wasn't always the right way. But and I chose culture, sometimes over different things, and having culture, loyalty, and commitment to process and commitment to better yourself, I think, is paramount. And I at the end of my business, I had a killer team. And I could have rode that horse a little longer, but again, leave something on the table for the other guy.
Yeah. Cool, thanks.
Coming from Canada, I know anyone that wears cowboy boots is a tough guy.
Calgary.
Just outside, but I'm really curious about the first 2 years. So how did you, I'm assuming that you kind of flew by the seat of your pants if you had that much growth in those first 2 years. How did you handle the overwhelmingness of that scaling that you were accomplishing and the emotions that come with it? That's the part that I think I'm the most scared of as an entrepreneur.
So, we invested our savings. My partner and I took no money for the first 3 years. And so I was the inside guy. My partner was probably the best sales guy in packaging. So I'm very lucky to have the best sales guy, period. So I was a process guy. So, I'd be there from the beginning to the end, but putting processes in place and getting the training in place. Now, people are going to make mistakes. You have to allow people to make mistakes. And I think that, the only silly question is the same one, right? So the idea is that how do you get discipline in processes and allow people to make mistakes, but not repeat them? So if you're a young company, you let people, fail, but you find people that have the kind of drive that around you. I mean, but also find people that support your weaknesses. And what I learned later was, again, playing the straight edge chance through EO to make Marcus Buckingham changed my life, really. Because I was doing things I just hated to do. And because I hated to do them, and maybe I was a bright guy, but I just did a shitty job because I didn't like doing it. So maybe stop doing the things that you don't like to do because you think they're necessary, and find somebody that will help you with that will supplement that.
I have a question about your market. So you have all this experience over in Asia. You kind of started this business in Sacramento. Where were you selling? Where was your market? Like where was you said the distribution in Salt Lake City distribution. Like because of your background in Asia Pacific, were you selling back in the Asia Pacific region at all? Or were you focused only in the United States? I'm just curious what your market was.
We did a lot of sourcing from Asia.
Okay.
Some polysilicon, polybags, tape, things like that. Did a lot of sourcing. But in the distribution business, it's almost like you take your covered wagon out and you put a stake in the ground, and as far as you can see, those are your customers, right? So you really had logistics issues to deal with. So when you're dealing with very skinny margins, you really have to get efficient in basically the last mile piece of it. So I just try to create last miles in a lot of different places.
Very cool.
Have you experienced, as a very traditional type business, much disruption? I haven't heard much of it, but I imagine, like every industry, it seems, old industries have been disrupted one way or another. How has that affected you?
Finally, a good plant in the audience, right? So, being a tech guy, in a year into our deal, I'm at the soccer fields, in Folsom. And you got some executives at Intel complaining that their stock options are upside down, right? And so they confided in me because I used to be a tech guy, I could speak their language. And I said, well, hey, what about instead of the Fortune 500 guys, what about the Fortune 1000 guys? Oh, well, we target those guys. And I said, well, what about the small mid-cap companies? Well, we don't know anything about those guys. I said, well, I'm one. And so in 2001, and we've only been in business about a year and a half, they decided to do a business makeover of my company. They dropped in a $300,000 platform, gave me 3,000 hours of engineering to show that small enterprise can compete on a large scale. I spoke at the developer forum at Intel from 20,000 people. I was at the retirement party of the CIO of all of Intel. And so they showed that small enterprise could compete by fracturing data, by taking my transaction costs from 40 to 14. Later, they came back and said, that really kind of worked. So we got this customer called AT&T, and we're rolling out this RFID stuff because we're losing half of our devices to other places in Asia. And we have no chain of custody. Can you help us figure this piece out? So we became a technology partner with AT&T and Intel. Later, through Kevin Johnson's greening Emerald Valley, I wanted to run, my factories on renewable energy. So we put the first solid waste anaerobic digester in North America on my property. I was converting my waste stream to 30% of my power. Then there was waste that wasn't digestible. So you had these long, short fibers weren't digestible. So the Research Center in Wisconsin for the Forest Paper Products Labs developed a product out of waste stream. Compressed fibers that had the same tensile strength as plywood. So we started helping produce that design products. So I always had an affinity. We kind of were out there. Most of my friendly competitors thought we were nuts, but there are a lot of people out there that thought we were innovative and brought new products to market.
So low tech really was high tech.
I found a way.
Tom, you mentioned your partner was the best package salesman ever. Could you tell us what made him great? And then secondly, you mentioned sales processes. Are there any specific processes you've implemented for the sales team that help them achieve more?
So, Eric, first of all, he was my best friend, growing up. And, he was a charmer. I remember going out to nightclubs and he would say things to women I'd get punched for. So he was a charmer. He still is a charmer. He's a wonderful man. So, but he was one of those guys that just had the gift And so, my challenge is how do I, because it was unique, how do we create opportunity for people to be successful like me? And so, that was my challenge and I ran commercial operations and I had worldwide responsibilities since I was 29 and run commercial operations. So I knew and knew all salespeople weren't created equal, right? So how do I change that balance of power with my average guy and make him good and a good one great, right? And so I set out to, get virtual memory. And we had the first, talk about technology, so we had the first to achieve the 2032s, the PDAs. And so we got an antenna from the guys in Sure West, so within 30 miles, my guys could take live inventory and enter an order from warehouse in 2001.
Oh, wow. 2001. Any other questions? All right, so I'm going to do something a little different. Since you're an investor, I actually know 3 startups here. Joe, I'm sorry, Brett, and then Mike. Anybody else? I'm going to give you guys a 30-second to pitch to Tom on your startup.
This is fun. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this. This is actually my first time out in Sacramento since moving here in August, so I'm open to meeting a whole bunch of new friends. So anyone that wants to come up and say hi to me after, that'd be great. I only have one friend here, and he's 80.
Yeah, you have at least 30 new friends now.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have 30 really good friends when I tell you I'm in the wine industry. I have 30,000 gallons at my winery, so anyone that becomes a good friend can come and say hi to me. So with that being said, not Calgary, I'm from Saskatchewan, which is 4 hours east of my farming community. What we do is we do wine by the glass. So we're the only company in the world that produces this. I manufacture this bottle, and we import bulk wine from all over the world, 7 different countries, Italy, Spain, Portugal. And the concept of this is for millennials to be able to have a glass of wine after a long day without the expense of opening and purchasing a full-size bottle. Now, of course, there is a time and place for a full-size bottle. Life's tough. So that means that's why we can upsell you and sell you a full-size bottle too. So when you find your favorite wine, we do the try and buy model, you then can buy a full bottle. This wine actually is made by the same winemaker that makes the wine for the Pope. All of our wines are exclusive and not sold anywhere else in the USA. So you can buy these retail at the store for $4.99 to $6.99. We have gift box options, 2 tubes and 3 tube gift box options. And we also are launching this Christmas with an advent calendar. So 24 different tubes of different countries is going to make the Christmas really merry this year. And yeah, I don't have a fairy godfather, so you're in luck. I'm in
So before you left Calgary, what was your revenue before you stopped?
So we did actually, so this is why I asked you the question, because we launched in Canada and we didn't have any processes at all. And we did $300,000 in sales in less than 6 months with a $1,500 marketing budget.
Nice.
So we were right from Vancouver to Toronto instantly. And we weren't prepared for scaling, and we essentially had to stop the company because we were making too many mistakes. Like Greg Cadone says, right, the more successful you are, the more problems you have. Well, we had a lot of problems. So we decided to just slow things down because we weren't happy with the packaging and everything that we're producing. And we decided to relocate down here to California to solve 3 of our problems. That was population in Canada. There's more people in California than all of Canada. Shipping costs are less here, and liquor taxes was eating up all of the profit in Canada. So out of the $300,000 we gross, we made $0. So now that we're down here, we have an option to have great margins. This costs about $1.25 with wine and packaged, and we can retail that for $4.99 direct to consumer. So yeah, we have a pretty good thing happening here, and we're excited. But I could definitely use some advice from an expert like you, because I feel overwhelmed every single day.
Laura, do you have a question?
No.
Or do you want some more?
No, I was just
the intangible. So, hi everybody, my name is Joe Chicolo. I'm the founder of BitAML. Like my colleague here, Brett, new to Sacramento, so I started my business in Illinois, and I grew up in Boston, so I'm progressively moving west, and as Brett reminded me, next stop would be the ocean, so I'm gonna stay here for the foreseeable future. So in 2015, I started BitAML as a regulatory compliance consulting firm, exclusively serving the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin marketplace. And so think of us more as sort of a Deloitte or a KPMG for the crypto space. And to our knowledge, we don't have any direct competitors fall in that business market. And so with the success we've had over the past 4 years now, we rolled that into technology and building some RegTech applications specific for the cryptocurrency industry for both Bitcoin exchanges, ATM platforms, and others. So a very, very niche market, and we're often the first call for entrepreneurs in the cryptocurrency space because they know that they're regulated, they know they need to get registration and licensing with government, and they know that along with that, they need to have a regulatory compliance program in place. So it's really fun to not only help them through the regulatory compliance process, so I'm kind of a compliance geek, but also it really is cool to be a part of their growth as a business and hear from them down the line when they need to call us back and say, well, the government requires me to update my compliance program, and I've grown, added 80 new units, or I have this product or this service. So yeah, it's been a really fun experience, and I'm glad to be here in the Sacramento market. A lot of my clients are, as you might imagine, in Silicon Valley versus sort of the Midwest. So
What does AML stand for?
So AML stands for anti-money laundering. So the first point of regulatory contact, for the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin space was anti-money laundering through FinCEN, which is an obscure bureau within the U.S. Treasury that is responsible for AML. So anybody here in banking has no doubt heard that. So early on in the cryptocurrency space, I guess I'm carbon dating myself, BitAML, the bit is sort of the prefix, was very common when setting up a business in the Bitcoin space. So BitPay, BitAccess, and sort of all these companies. So I said, well, we need people to know what we do, and everybody knew at that time, I need to do AML. I don't know what it is, but I need to do AML. Sort of like, oh, BitAML, okay, that kind of works. So kind of carbon dating ourselves there in the crypto space, but it's a name that's stuck, and certainly the capital A, capital M, capital L stands out when we talk to folks in the industry.
Okay. Cool.
Can I add a vignette to that? Sure. So here's Joe in Sacramento. Rich and I met you in Redwood City, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We had to leave town to meet.
Yeah. So I invited Joe to come today. So
yeah, it's great. There's so many resources here, and as Laura mentioned, I didn't even know that this was a thing here. I've sort of seen the startup space online, and it's good to know that there's an ecosystem here, and not too far up the road as well.
I'm glad to have you.
It's very exciting to have new entrepreneurs here in town. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, one more.
Thank you.
By the way, anybody else want to do a quick pitch to Tom after Mike?
Okay, not as sexy as these two guys, but the silver tsunamis upon us, folks. I'm one of them. Aging in America is here, and we're not prepared. So we've started Help for Mom and Dad in Folsom. I'm 1 year anniversary, Laura, from Hacker Lab. So it's my 1 year startup weekend. So thank you again for that. Anyway, so what we're doing is putting together a community for senior caregivers. The biggest problem in America today are people like me, boomers. 41 million of us are taking care of mom and dad today in the United States. 41 million. So boomers are the #1 caregivers in the country, and 75% of those boomers are women. Women are the #1 caregivers in the country between the ages of 50 and 71 years of age. They are taking care of mom and dad as mom and dad age out. And so the biggest frustration in the market is #1, it's a crisis-driven market. #2, it's fragmented. #3, there's lots of fraud and deceit. And #4, people are just literally, they get the call at 11 at night, mom fell in the tub. The daughter lives in San Francisco, mom lives in Folsom. What the hell do I do? And so we're going to have a site or a place to go so they can dial it in, look us up, and we'll have all the care resources available to the boomers and to the caregivers. And it's going very, very well, Laura, actually. We've got a lot of great support, and I'm seeing the Haney group you can be there on Thursday.
On Thursday, yeah.
Yes, they've invited me, so thank you for your talk, by the way. So that's what we're doing, thanks.
Anybody else want to pitch to Tom?
Why don't I cheat?
Cheat.
Yeah, I'll cheat. I don't know if I need this, but my name is Brandon Robinson. Okay, sorry. Oh, I can't, of course. I'm used to being in front of the camera. Tom's actually already an investor in my business. But wait, why am I getting special treatment? I get to go over here.
Because I have a camera at the back.
Hey. Hi. Well, I just wanted to say I've already got an investment from Tom and Mark Haney, so I'm very fortunate. My company is called Flat Stick Pub. We are an indoor miniature putt-putt golf pub complex going in Doco. And it's actually it's going to be open this summer, so it's more of a commercial right now than it is an investment pitch. But I've started many businesses in the past. I recently had an exit in Q4 of 2017 in my past business. And I fell in love with this concept. It's actually out of Seattle, Washington, and I bought the licensing rights for it here in Northern California. So we're hoping to open 7 to 8 of these locations and then hopefully sell it and allow someone else to grow the brand. So $630K in Doco, and it's a indoor miniature putt-putt golf pub complex, about 14,500 square feet. It's massive.
So we're waiting for the certified discount.
Yeah, actually, all of you guys, I don't think I brought it. If you want, I will give you guys all free miniature golf. If you guys can email us.
You can send it.
We can send you guys all free mini golf passes. So if you guys want to email us, I'll give you my email address and you guys can send us some passes. Everybody here. It's fine. Free golf. Free golf. Free golf. There you go.
All right.
Only because I was here. You gave me.
Okay, so last question I have for you is, who's your favorite superhero?
I just saw Aquaman. That was really cool. That was really great. I think at the moment, I think Aquaman. Why not?
All right, he is a badass. Anyone else who's a badass?
He's handsome.
You're also a badass. She actually made a game for you.
Oh, cool.
So, so thank you so much for coming out and helping out and helping the community.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This only works in Android, by the way.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Nice.
All right, so with that, I think there's a few things. Catherine, are you here? Catherine is with the Carlston Entrepreneur Center. Do you want to say a few things about the center?
So first off, the most interesting thing for tonight about the Carlson Center is Tom Kandris. Tom graciously sits on the board of the Carlson Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Sacramento State, and we appreciate that and his knowledge.
Our pleasure.
And so the Carlson Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Sacramento State has just started. We have a 4-pillar approach to what we're doing here in the areas of Greater Sacramento. First, most and foremost, we serve the students at Sacramento State in entrepreneurship, innovation, starting their for-profits or their not-for-profits. Faculty and staff can then engage in the activities and programs that we have to do that. We then have a K through 12 component, so we're beginning to grow younger entrepreneurs, and we're partnering with other organizations here in the area that do grow young entrepreneurs so that we create that stream early on. We partner with many different community organizations and enjoy our partnership with Startup SAC and a number of other organizations here in the area to help encourage entrepreneurship and to help all of you develop your business. And then the last pillar that we have is economic development partnering and technology transfer from the University of the Intellectual Property that's created there. So, thank you.
We're glad to have you in the community.
We appreciate that.
Laura, did you have anything you want to talk?
He always do. Can I use the mic? Because that's really cool. So those of you who don't know me, my name is Laura Good. I'm a co-organizer of Startup Grind, and then I'm also the co-founder of a nonprofit called Startup SAC, which our mission is to help startups in the Sacramento region connect with the resources they need to be successful. And by resources, I don't just mean money. Your best resources are going to be the relationships that you make, and we're pretty good at connecting people with the right folks. So there's something called the Startup Digest that comes out every Monday morning, and my co-founder Jeff Bennett and I curate that. If you don't get the Startup Digest and you'd like to sign up for it, see me afterwards. It's free. And then I also wanted to let you know about 2 things that are going on in Cal Startup that you should know about. The first is a competition called Kings Capitalize. Who's heard about Kings Capitalize? Okay, but those of you who didn't raise your hand, how many of you have a startup? Okay. So Kings Capitalize, it's in its 4th year. It's a startup pitch competition. The applications close this Sunday. They've just been open for a couple of weeks. The top, it'll be narrowed down to 4 who will get to have a video shown at a Kings game on Tech Night. So how many people? 20, I was going to say 20 million, but it's not 20. 20,000 people, it's your video. And there's a $10,000 prize. So it's kind of a cool way that the Kings give back to the community, but it's also fun and you should apply. The other one is UC Davis Big Bang, is an annual business competition. They've been having the program all year. The last day for your team to apply is Thursday. And you can participate in the competition, which there's over $100,000 in prizes in the Big Bang. So I wanted you to know about that. And one last thing, if you're had fun here tonight and you want to get back and do something similar next week, and if you happen to live in Folsom, Startup SAG has Startup SAG Happy Hour next Tuesday at a place called the Gaslight Co., which I've never been to. And we have networking, free appetizers, and then we have an Ask Me Anything with a startup founder who has accomplished something. And Linked is the startup that's going to be there. Kevin Kane.
Yeah,
Kevin Kane will be our Ask Me Anything speaker. So it's free to attend, and I hope you can join us. And I think that's all I got.
Okay. And then part of it is we're here to help each other out, and I think you were looking for help, so for your company. So.
Well, for myself, not my company, but hi, I'm Michelle Reneko. I'm a skilled strategy manager, and I am looking to switch industries. I've been in natural foods for the last 5 years, and a fairly small company, and I've helped that organization grow a lot, but I just feel like I've hit the ceiling on what I can learn there. So at any rate, looking to pivot into healthcare. And if you know of anybody who might be interested or able to connect me to resources in healthcare, I would really appreciate it.
Anybody else here need help or would like to offer help? Okay.
You want a plumber?
My heating's broken too. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, for coming tonight. I think there's still food around. Stick around, maybe talk to each other, help each other out. And our next event, I still got to find a speaker for the next event, so that's something where I need help with. But anyway, thank you for coming tonight.